Thank you for joining us today, everybody, all of our attendees, for our how do we make Katy count presentation with the US Census and Jasalyn Smith. She currently serves as partnership specialist for the US Census Bureau. She is responsible for developing partnerships with Fortune 500 companies and businesses that are located within Harris and surrounding counties in Texas. In addition to the partnership specialist role, she serves as a national partnership lead for the Denver-Dallas region, guiding colleagues through forming and serving national partnerships. With that, Jasalyn, please take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, I would like to talk a little bit about the census. And let's go ahead and jump in here. All right, is the screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Okay, so just a quick 2020 census update. By now, I'm sure you've already heard about the 2020 census, which is our decennial census count of the population that we do every 10 years. We do it to get an accurate count of everyone that is here in the country as of April 1st of the year that we're counting. So that would be April 1st, 2020. Just a quick little background on why we take a census and how we use it. Of course, apportionment that determines how many seats we have. That number can go up or down depending on our population. So it's really important that we get that accurate count to make sure we have an accurate reflection of how many representatives we need. It helps us draw congressional and state legislative lines. Of course, voting rights and civil rights. The distribution of federal dollars to Texas and other states, but really important here because it helps fund programs that we use every day in our community, as well as informing planning decisions of the government, and then just organizational decisions, especially for businesses. It helps you determine, where to open, where your current market may be, little things like that, but it really helps us determine how to run a business. So census is really important. You use that data all the time, I'm sure. And lastly, while we do it, it's in the Constitution. Really important thing for us to do, and it's legal. So an important message, just want you guys to know, we are definitely monitoring the coronavirus situation. We've been working on every level to make sure that first and foremost, we are protecting the health of the staff at the census as well as the health of the public, while still fulfilling our constitutional duty of the 2020 census. So while we've adjusted the schedule a little bit, which I'll get into a little bit later, we are still trying to make sure we're putting health first while still carrying out our duties of getting the 2020 census count.
Great. Josh, would you want to go into slideshow view for your presentation?
Sorry?
Do you want to put it in slideshow format view?
Yeah, are you not seeing it that way?
We're seeing the slideshow, but not in presentation view.
Oh, okay, it's in presentation view here. Let's see. So are you seeing the actual slides?
We are. It looks like it says enable editing, and it's got your slide count on the left.
Weird. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, are you seeing it now in slideshow view?
No, maybe if you click enable editing on the top.
Mine doesn't say enable editing at the top.
Okay, well then just go back to, just go back to slide 1 and we'll continue from there.
Okay, let's try this again. Screen sharing has stopped. Let's try this again. Is it better now?
There we go. Yep, perfect.
Awesome. Okay, great. So here's where I was talking about the census and why we do it. Letting you guys know that we're still monitoring the coronavirus situation and making sure we're putting the health of everyone above all. And so here is where we'll talk about our important milestones here. So currently, as of yesterday, our national self-response rate was at a 58.7%. which is pretty good. That means more than half of the households in the nations have responded, and that's nearly 76 million responses. And Texas is also doing pretty well. We have 53.3% response rate in Texas, so that's awesome. That's amazing, but we still have halfway to go. So if you take a look, I broke it down for the city of Katy. Katy, which is one of the top cities in response rates right now, is at a 65.5%. So that's ahead of Texas and ahead of the national rate, which is amazing. But I wanted to break it down by county so you guys can see where we're lagging at in the city of Katy. So of course, Fort Bend, amazing, 65.3% response rate. But then we fall behind the national and the state average when we come to Harris County. So the parts of Katy and Harris County, we're at a 52.9% in Harris and a 44.5% in Waller. Good news is the dates have been extended until October 31st. And so this map, and you'll see the link here, this website shows you the response rate and it's updated live every day until October 31st. So you can see how the responses are moving. You can see the rates by state, by city, by county, by census tract. You can break it down as far as you like to go to see how the numbers are rising, and then the particular zip codes and areas within the city that need the most help. So using that website has been really good for us to see where we need to put a lot of our focus at. So here are the adjustments we've made due to COVID-19. So as I mentioned, the self-response phase has been extended from July 31st to October 31st. Still 4 ways to respond. That's online, by phone, mail, and in person. We are focusing heavily on self-response, which is online, phone, and mailed responses, because in August, that's when folks will start going door to door to get those responses. So right now, we're still in the self-response phase. Group quarters has been extended until September 3rd as well. And that's going to be your college dorms, your nursing homes, jails, things of that nature where a lot of folks live in one place. That's extended until September 3rd. Our field offices, which is our area census offices, were shut down during COVID-19, but they will reopen on June 1st. So you'll start to see a little more activity and a lot more staff on foot. Update leave, that's where those folks who get in-person invitations dropped off because they don't receive mail at their addresses and they don't have access to internet. That will go on until July 9th. The non-response follow-up is the important thing. It begins August 11th. That's when those enumerators will go door to door in the communities for those who have not responded. And we want to try to prevent that because we already have a lot of things and a lot of fear and hesitation, with folks coming out to home. So we're trying to push everyone to get their responses in before August 11th begins. So as I mentioned, the dates have changed. We've started seeking the statutory relief from Congress of 120 additional calendar days to deliver the final results. So the window has already been extended to October 31st, but we're asking for the count to be delivered on April 30th instead of December 31st as it was originally planned. So redistricting data will be delivered in July instead of April. Our national media campaign has also been updated. Our motivation phase has been extended to May 31st. So that's, another week or two left here. You'll start to see signage on pizza boxes and in gas stations when you're getting your gas. You'll start to see things about the census everywhere now because we've extended the awareness date due to COVID-19. So let's talk about what you guys can do. You're in the community, you're seeing people day to day, you're interacting, well, not seeing anymore, you're interacting with people day to day. You know what struggles your community faces, what barriers may be preventing us from getting to that 100% count for the city of Katy and the counties it's involved in. So we need you guys in the community to help us get this count. So a few ideas I like to tell people. One, hosting a virtual block party via Facebook Live. We're all virtual now. We're all on Facebook all the time now. So a few different organizations and partners have started to do live parties on Facebook where they can interact back and forth with people. Same as a community chat via Facebook or YouTube. You're live and talking like we're doing now, and folks in the community can ask questions about the census and learn a little bit more about it. based on your answers. Hosting a Twitter hour where you're on Twitter for 1 hour straight, from 2 to 3, just answering questions that people have about the census and how it affects them, and using a unique hashtag. Creating a fun online quiz and putting it on your website for those to answer. And then for those of you who are business owners, challenging your employees to fill out their census. Like, let's say every Friday is don't forget to fill out your census day. So little things like that to keep it top of mind for those who haven't responded, and for them to tell others to respond as well. So that's all about the census, our updates, where we are now, how things have changed, and how we're looking for you guys to get involved and to help us out. So I think this is a good time to kind of field questions, or I may have missed a few in the chat. Oh, that was about the screen. Yeah, so any questions or any thoughts or any concerns about what's going on and how the census has changed?
One of the questions that we hear, obviously, is how vital of a role it plays, and with the redistricting and everything like that. What new challenges based on COVID have you guys had to overcome? Are there any additional ways we as community leaders can help support to get more information out, to urge people out? I know you gave some samples there, but is there anything that you've seen working in other areas and other districts or regions that you're covering that we can maybe tap into those resources as well? Because yes, it's about our community, but it's also about our state.
Well, because of COVID-19, of course, we've seen a lot of the changes have shifted everything from in-person to virtual. People are no longer in the office, they're no longer at the schools. Everything is from home now. So almost all of our partners have had to readjust to meeting people where they are. So whereas you're not having these daily interactions anymore, people are just having to read and watch their news and information. So that's why I think those virtual events have been really successful, because it allows an open dialogue for people, almost like having a virtual town hall. We've seen a lot of success with those. We've even had people that do a virtual fill out your census hour, where people are literally filling out their census while they're watching what they're doing. A how-to guide, a video of your leader doing a demonstration of how easy it is to fill out the census. That's where we've seen the most success on one hand, and on the other hand, it's been those areas where you have a lot of community involvement, such as food pantries and giving out food to those who need it, or helping to pass out supplies to people. We have information on site there where people are coming for things they need, and letting them know, hey, these things are funded by the numbers we get from the census. So taking the time to explain to people how we're getting these things that they're needing also motivates them to say, oh, wow, this really is important. That's, relating it to the things that they need and that they do helps them understand why it's really important on the ground in the community.
What reasons do you attribute the Katy area being higher, and the City of Katy being higher in response rate compared to other regions that you've seen?
So we have something called, it was called Rome, and it showed us the demographics of certain areas. And it kind of told us which areas would be a little harder based on certain factors. So there are factors such as those living in poverty, those who live high rates of apartments, those who don't have access to a lot of internet, language barriers, things like that have contributed to lower response rates. Katy doesn't have as high of a population of those demographic barriers in comparison to Houston or the larger parts of Harris County. A lot of those barriers prevent people from not only getting information, but carrying out the actual duty of getting it done, which is why at the census we were planning on doing mobile questionnaire assistance sites in those areas before COVID happened, to be on site, because a lot of those factors, they need a little bit more hand-holding to help them get through it. Katy doesn't display as many of those barriers that we've seen in other communities.
Was this was the first year, I believe, that you guys went to online. Was that a plan prior to COVID, or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. This actually, they planned for this in 2010, but after doing testing and going through a few trial runs, it wasn't stable and ready yet to be released in 2010. So they've been planning this for 10 plus years to be online, for sure.
Wow. What would you suggest, now that unemployment rates are skyrocketing, for those people that are in those industries, to help people find new placements? Is there any correlation between the census and people filling out the survey that way?
I don't think I understand. Can you repeat? So you're asking about the unemployment?
Yeah, with the unemployment rate where it is today, is that affecting voter turnout at all, compared, not voter turnout, I'm sorry, survey responses, compared to, say, 2010?
We can't compare the data just yet. What we can say is that where we are now in this particular time, let's say, I think we're about 7 or so days in, our rates are actually higher now than they were in 2010 at this point in the census. So I don't think that it's negatively affected the responses, but we won't be able to fully compare until the last day that responses can be taken. But we are ahead of the curve that we were in 2010, 67 days in between
Okay.
20 and 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it's because folks are at home. So it is easier for them to fill it out online or even by paper because they are home to do it. So,
Yeah,
it may have had an opposite effect.
sure. Do we have any other questions from any of our attendees? We can hold on for a few more minutes to see. Um,
The current state of hiring for the census, is that what you're asking, Scott? So we had to suspend hiring for a few months due to COVID-19, but we have resumed recruiting and hiring because if you think about it, a lot of the folks that either met the requirements and were ready to work have changed their minds due to COVID-19. So we have resumed recruiting and hiring in all areas. So we are still in the process. We will have to go through the process of hiring and recruiting because of COVID-19. So it's definitely open again, and they are looking for people to apply now to fill those enumerator jobs in August. I see a question from Dennis. The biggest obstacle or resistance we've seen, I think, is the lack of knowledge of what the census is and what it does. A lot of people are either unaware of exactly why we do a census and the kind of information that we get from the census. And then it's the fear of the unknown. So that's what we're working on primarily now, trying to educate people and help them understand what the census is, which is it's a count of the population, and not an invasion of their privacy. I think that's a lot of what we've seen. They just don't know what it is and why the government needs their information. So it's overcoming that lack of knowledge and lack of understanding as to what it is and why people are doing it. Yes, that's what it is. It's definitely not the ease of use. Once you get in, it's very simple, 10 questions in and out. It's really just not knowing what it's for and why we need it.
we had another question come in that they had to fill out the long form booklet. Can you explain that process and why they were asked to do it?
Okay, so the Census Bureau actually does a number of surveys throughout the year. There's the American Community Survey and a lot of other surveys to help us get the demographics that are updated year round, whereas you may see something that says, as of 2018, the Census Bureau said this. We do a lot more than just the decennial census. So the long form is one of the American Community Surveys that goes way more in depth, asking about like the income of the household and things of that nature. The 2020 census form does not ask that, and it doesn't have more than 10 questions. So if they got a loan form, that's not the 2020 census form that they receive. That's a different survey that they take throughout the year in random samples of the population to get demographic data.
Okay. So they would still be urged to go in and report online, or?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Every household has to fill out a 2020 census. The loan form is not, it's just a sample of the population that goes throughout the year.
Any further questions from our audience? We can stay on for a few more minutes if you'd like.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Looks like that may be it. So Jasalyn, thank you for your time. We've recorded this webinar. We will be sharing it on our YouTube and social media pages. If there are any questions that come in from those, we'll be forwarding them to you so you can answer, and we'll share those responses as well.
Yes, please.
If there's anything the Chamber can do for you guys and helping getting the word out from more than what we've already done, please let us know. We are more than happy to do that for you guys.
Thank you. You guys have been awesome with sharing the message, and we appreciate it. We really do.
Thank you. Thank you. So if there's no other questions, thank you everybody for your time today. We really enjoyed the short, quick, informative webinar. Thank you, Jasalyn and the US Census Bureau.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.